Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Patreon Q&A where I take questions from patrons and I answer them. I did this previously, but we had a little bit of trouble with the audio, which is to say we quit recording the audio kind of a way through. But anyway though, I got a new thing for this mic, so we'll have a little bit less of the wind stuff where I'm breathing into the mic. It'll be nice. Anyway though, on to the questions. My first question is from Dr. Scoots, Airgian, and Zachary Smith. They all asked the exact same thing. Am I going to do a Let's Play of Fallout 4? And actually, I've got this question from a lot of people, and in fact, I was even gifted Fallout 4 because people really want to see me do a Let's Play of Fallout 4. Granted that someone gifted it to me, originally the answer was probably not, no. I think I'm going to wait for a long time until they release all the DLC, and, you know, there's a bunch of mods out, and I'll see how it goes. There's not even a mod thing out yet for Fallout 4. And personally, I mean, like, Bethesda games are okay, but I think that they're better when you install some mods for them. I mean, like, I'll play through New Vegas, but Fallout 3 got a little bit samey for me. You know, Skyrim got really samey for me. You might notice that I play with a lot of mods on Skyrim. Some of them work behind the scenes, and some of them are kind of blatant. You know, they add a lot of creatures and things like that. But by themselves, Bethesda tends to, you know, they do a lot. They do a lot, obviously, to save time and money, and it's not always to their benefit. It's not always like clever. A lot of times, you know, by your millionth Draugr, you've seen too many Draugrs, so you just need to install a mod that replaces a few of the Draugrs with something more interesting. Or at least upgrades the Draugrs, or gives them new equipment, or does something, just something for spice and variety. But anyway though, if I do a Let's Play of Fallout 4, which now maybe it's more on the table because someone did send me the game, and they really want to see, people really want to see me do it, it might be possible if I figure out a way to remove the character voice from the game, so that way I can just speak instead of the character. Because that way I can continue to play my own character without having to worry about like these voiced lines. Because that's the other thing that Bethesda does, is their voice acting is always like, man, it's so stilted, and sometimes it's a little bit painful to sit through. Like, you'll just be sitting there, and they speak with these lengthy pauses, you know, like, hello there. I am going to give you a quest. There is a little boy over by the lake, and I'm really worried. And they just leave all these like really long pauses. And it's the type of thing where if it was a normal conversation, you'd interject with stuff like, okay, hi, sure, and you would cut in and you would give your own thoughts because that's what those pauses mean in a normal conversation. But in a Bethesda games, that just means that the AI is thinking about what it wants to say next. So I'll figure out a way to remove the voice of the character, and then I don't know. I haven't picked the game up. I haven't really had a lot of opportunity to sit down and play it at all. But I think that I could do it with the BSA browsers. I think if I just open up the files and replace some of them, that might do the trick. So I may not have to wait for mods to actually come out, or for you know, the GEC, which you use to mod the game. I may not have to wait for that. I might be able to just deal with it as is. But that's my current take on it. I still don't know if I'll do a Let's Play on it. I mean, I'll probably get to the end of Skyrim before I pick that up, unless I feel like I ought to be doing something else. Like if I don't know, were to like drop personal time or something like that and then fit in another Let's Play, if that were feasible. Hard to say though. Anyway, next question by Pilla. What other YouTube channels do I enjoy? I don't know, I used to follow a couple back in the day, but I don't really quite as much as I used to. These days I more or less sort of bounce around, and if people link me things, then I'll watch it. I know that Kenza is kind of fond of Game Grumps and JonTron, and so like I'll watch JonTron with her and Game Grumps with her. I also used to watch a guy called Kurt J. Mack, and Kurt J. Mack, he would do this thing called Farlands or Bust. I kind of quit watching Kurt J. Mack. I mentioned him once when I was talking about Minecraft Online, stuff like that. I mean, there's other things, like, there's stuff that everybody sees, because YouTube kind of promotes it to everybody. These are not things that I like, super enjoy, but that are weird. Like, there's one that came up called Pork Chop and Flat Screen, which I thought was just kind of, like, you watch Pork Chop and Flat Screen. If you go and you look it up, like, Pork Chop and Flat Screen, I don't know if the guy's really good at art now, but his earliest videos, for sure, they were not, like, it wasn't, like, superb artistic skill, but his videos were, like, very, very long. And knowing what I do about like producing that kind of content, I know that there must have been a lot of like passion and spirit poured into making this thing. And so he's got these very long videos about these two girls primarily. One who's like At first, I thought maybe she was pregnant, because like I say, it's not like, anatomically speaking, like, it's not like the most top-notch artwork I've ever seen. But at first I thought she was pregnant. Actually, she's just supposed to be fat. And then another girl who's like Asian, and she has a small chest, therefore a pork chop and flat screen. But primarily it's about their adventures, whatever those may be. Like one time they were mermaids, and one time they were ninjas. And I was never able to sit through one whole thing. But it had sort of a weird hypnotizing effect. Like I was just watching it, I'm just like, what am I watching? Like, what is the story here? What am I evolving into? And he would just kind of keep going, and it was like there was never really a, like there was kind of a story, but not really. We're chopping flat screen. I mean, I don't know. There are other ones that have come out. Some of them are just kind of like I think Racist Mario was one that they just kept promoting and promoting and promoting, and I went and I looked at that one and kind of wasn't into the style of humor, but. I don't know, YouTube is weird. We were talking about this. Like, you can't even really browse YouTube videos so much. Like, if you just wanted to, like, look up YouTube videos by genre and just say, like, show me, comedy. Like, what's sort of, like, a highly rated thing, like, what's got more likes than the... I don't know, like, you don't really browse YouTube so much anymore. You kind of get linked to videos, and if you really like somebody, you follow them. I used to follow Swedish Mealtime as well. They kind of quit updating. Dragon Ball Z abridged, Team 4-Star, used to keep track of them. Most of it is just I lost track of them because of time. Time restraints, couldn't watch everything all the time. And then I also got to where I started more or less just watching things like with people. So like if Kenza wanted to watch something, I would watch with her. Or if people, people I knew wanted to watch something, I would watch with them. And in fact, I used to do that quite a bit. Like I had... friends that also like to watch Swedish Mealtime. Like I had a friend who was learning Swedish, and so she liked to watch Swedish Mealtime because it really amused her. She was getting into Swedish culture. So yeah, it used to be. So there's some social elements involved too. We'd sit around and watch the YouTube television sort of thing. Pillow would also like to know, any tips for public speaking? Public speaking, yes. The best thing to do is just sort of to practice. For a lot of people, what kills them is they just get really nervous. Like you get up in front of people and you worry that you're going to make a fool out of yourself. And the fact is that any kind of entertainment, you're always basically putting on sort of a mask. And you get up in front of people and you just show them. Yeah, I mean, all the cards are in your hand. Like when you're up on stage, when you're in front of people, all the cards are in your hand. And you may not necessarily be good, and you may not necessarily be the best. But whatever you show them, it's what you show them. So if you get up there and you show them that you're super, super nervous, then everyone's going to see that you're super, super nervous. And they may not, they won't dislike you if you're nervous. I mean, people don't care if you're nervous. Everybody understands if you're in front of a crowd. You might get nervous. Your hands will shake, you might sweat and all that. The worst thing I think you can do when public speaking is just you bore people. I mean, you could also say horrible inflammatory things and have a rock thrown at your head, but if you're doing that, most people are aware that they're doing it. I mean, some people make careers of that, so that's like on you if you choose to do that. I suppose on that note, if you're going to do public speaking, be careful about your topic choice. You can always get up and speak to people about why they're morally wrong. But it's really easy to get a ton of backlash from doing that because people don't like to be told that they're morally wrong, and that's not a very fun thing. If you're just doing a presentation though on say I don't know, for an engineering project, or say you're trying to pitch a thing, you're in front of a boardroom or you're in front of a class. Let's say you're doing a book report. I don't know, whatever it is. If it's some kind of functional thing like that. Then no worries. The worst thing you're ever going to do is bore people, and a lot of times what happens is you bore people because you get very nervous, and then you get up on front of the stage and you just kind of drone along. What I recommend to do is just to bear in mind that everyone will forget whatever it is that you said if you're boring. So if you fail, if you do really badly, it won't matter. Everyone will just kind of let that pass along. No one will hold it against you. They'll just be like, that was a really boring speech, and they'll kind of wish that they were somewhere else. Some people might get up and leave the room, and while that's very rude, it's, at least they won't be bored anymore. So boredom, you produce a very neutral reaction, really. So hopefully that would reduce your nervousness. I tend to find that works for me. Thinking of things like that is if people don't like what I'm saying, they will go. And I'll reflect on that later and think about how did I lose them? Sometimes maybe they get up to go to the restroom. Other times I might have just been boring. Might have not been relevant to their interest. But then once you get all past that, once you get past your nervousness, you can start thinking about other things. I recommend doing note cards if you're doing something in public. It makes it easy just to keep track of what it is that you want to say. I mean, usually you have some bullet points. You have a main point and some bullet points. And actually don't memorize your speeches. Like if you have a plan, just outline it, don't memorize it, and then that way it's a little bit more natural. You can memorize it, but odds are good. What'll happen is that if you forget something, it becomes a major roadblock, and it like train wrecks your speech, whatever it is that you're doing. You'll sit there trying to remember like, oh, I can't remember what I was gonna say next. So to memorize your speeches by rote it's a bad idea. It's a thing you can get away with. I mean, like, it's a thing you can actually sit down and practice, and if you practice really, really hard, you can do it. But it's not a good idea. And then the other thing I would say to do is just to vary your speaking patterns. Don't speak like a Bethesda character. Don't speak at the same rate all the time. Don't put long pauses between things. Also, don't speak too fast. More importantly, get somebody to speak to. Find like a friend or whatever and just get up and do your speech, and then have them give you honest feedback. And encourage them. Joke around a little bit, and get them in the mindset that they can tell you that you suck. Because the most valuable kind of criticism are people who will tell you that you're terrible. Oftentimes. I mean, depends on how they do it, but that's a good way to go. That's often a good way to go. Next one. Brightma, what inspired you to do personal time? And personal time, I can't remember. I believe it started off way back. I was doing this thing called Tumblr Wisdom. And Tumblr Wisdom was when people sent me questions, and I would just kind of answer them. And I would go through and I'd be playing like Minecraft or doing something, or just sitting around with Alan drinking. And we would answer Tumblr questions, and we would get like, tons and tons of Tumblr questions, and some of them would be silly, and some of them would be serious, and we would just answer them one at a time. Eventually, I quit doing that, and I think I just started taking I would get, one or two really big questions, or people would ask me about some things, and I would think like, oh, I could go in depth on this. So I just did a personal time video, and I figured I would make this public, and personal time was also a great way to update people on what's going on with the website. Fortunately, I think that personal time might be one of the less popular things I do. I was doing stats on it, and I find that people, when you look at like what is causing people to unsubscribe from my channel, personal time happens to be the biggest culprit. Like I go and I look, and it goes like, when did people unsubscribe the most? Oh, when I posted this personal time video. So I don't know. I've always been a little on the fence. Like as far as entertainment goes, I mean, like it's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, that's kind of how it developed and how it became. Robert Haynes, what is the difference between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a therapist? Well, a psychiatrist has a medical doctorate. As far as I understand the differences, the psychiatrist has a medical doctorate. A psychologist has a PhD. He focuses on the study, and then a therapist doesn't necessarily have either. A therapist could be, like a massage therapist would be like somebody who gives you a massage. That would be a therapist. A therapist could be just about anybody. You don't really need any kind of accreditation to be a therapist. Psychiatrists, though, they're the ones who can actually sit down and they can write you out drugs and stuff like that. A psychologist generally cannot do that without like a whole ton of paperwork and stuff ahead of time. Psychologists can potentially do studies. Like if you get brought into a study group, a psychologist might try to treat you with some kind of experimental drug. But psychiatrists are generally the ones who will sit down and they'll say like, okay, so, tell me, like, have you been sad for 6 months? Yes, no. Like, do you have these symptoms? Yes, no. Okay, I'll prescribe you like sertraline, and we'll see how that goes. Psychiatrists are the ones that help you medically. Psychologists are the ones that study you. Therapists are the ones that, sometimes they can help, and sometimes they sell you snake oil. It depends. A therapist can be just about anything. But that is the difference between the three, as far as I understand. Our next question is from Valerie. Valerie. What was your first job, and how did you get it? And my first job, actually, I worked for the city. I worked at a swimming pool, and I was actually very young when I picked up this job. I was like 14. But anyway, though, yeah, I used to go down to this job, and they had a bunch of rules about being under the age of employment, and there was all kinds of things like I couldn't work for certain hours, and I couldn't pull overtime. But the thing that was funny is that at that age, like a lot of your teenage peers have no real interest in like working. So I used to get phone calls all the time from my coworkers that would be like, hey Greg, like you come into work when we call you. Would you like to come into work and work my shifts? And I would be like, yes, I need $4 per hour. And so I would just go in and I would work for like $4 per hour. I would do like an 8-hour shift. And I remember at one point my manager had to come out and they were like, hey Greg, you're taking a lot of shifts. Could you maybe knock that off a little bit, because it's going to be illegal soon? The city can work you against the law, but only to a certain degree. It's kind of an interesting thing. I didn't know that the city could do that, but it makes sense, I guess. If anyone was exempt from those kind of laws, the city would probably be one of the parties. But yeah. I mean, like, this is like at the pool. Like, imagine, you know, those people who just sit at the front desk and they're like, "Show me your pool card. Show me your. Do you have a pool card?" Okay, I'm one of those people. I was one of those people, and it's about as boring as you might think it is. Like, I used to sit there and like I had this deck of cards, and like I would play solitaire, and I'd get bored playing solitaire. I would make like card houses, stuff like that. So the pool. I worked at a pool. What do I think is the meaning of life, the purpose of life? If I've written this down correctly. What do I think is the life is what I've written down. What do I think is life? Life is what you make of it. Whatever it is you want life to be. It's all in your head, after all. I mean, like, everything is just it's just sensory information passed into your brain. So whatever you decide with your brain that life is supposed to be, that's what it is. Yeah, this is a very optimistic take on the whole thing. Like, whatever you're doing it absolutely right. Unless you hate what you're doing, in which case you're doing it all wrong, maybe. Unless you like to hate things. If you're comfortable hating things, then you're doing it right. That's the way I think that it should go. I mean, like, how else could you really interact with the universe and define success for yourself other than just to say, like, I don't know, it's my perception, it's my world, so whatever purpose that I desire is what it is. For me, I don't put too much thought into it. I figure at some point I'll be dead, and then after that, you know, it's like, man, I won't have to worry about it anymore. I've got a long stretch of not having to worry about it ahead of me, so I figure why spend a lot of time dealing with it now. The way that I put it is life is like a song. Like, the point of the song is not to get to the end, because that's your big finale, and you know that you just get one note at the end, like, and it's the same note you started on, because music works in a pattern. And this is getting too far into the metaphor. That's actually not what they were trying to get at. But anyway, yeah, life is a song. Enjoy the song. Wayward Pony, what do you think of Monty Python? And are there any particular films or sketches from them that I enjoy? And Monty Python, I like Monty Python. But one of the people who made Monty Python, I can't remember if it was John Cleese or not, but it might have been, pointed out that Monty Python is actually a series of really bad jokes with a few, like, fantastic nuggets in there. And everybody just remembers all the good stuff because it's been out for a long time and it became a cult classic. And I think that that's actually probably a fair and accurate assessment of Monty Python. I like some skits that they did. Some skits were very funny and very memorable. But I don't... Like I've done Monty Python marathon days because I've had those kind of friends that would do that sort of thing. And I don't recommend Monty Python marathon days because Monty Python marathon is not just a non-stop roller coaster of fun. It's kind of like a like, oh, that sketch was pretty good, and then you sit and you watch through some kind of boring stuff, and then you get into something that was really funny. So they've got some stuff that really hits and some stuff that's kind of okay and some stuff that is not so good. But I mean, like, you know, the Monty Python, it's an interesting crew, and there's a reason that they got successful. Their stuff that was good was really good. I kind of like the life of Brian. I like the whole concept of like you get mistaken as a messiah or a prophet or something like that. And I like that bit that they did in that where they were like, Romans go home, and he's trying to write this out in like Latin. And so a Roman soldier comes along and he goes, the people who are called Romans, they are to go house. And so he like holds him at sword point and like forces this guy to rewrite it correctly with the proper grammar and everything like that. Romans go home. So yeah, that was kind of a fun skit. I mean, there's good skits from all the stuff that they do. Every Sperm is Sacred was a wonderful song. I think they blew most of their budget on that. That and the opening scene from The Meaning of Life, where they did the accountants that turned to piracy and they sail their building around. That was cool. But yeah. Have I ever been in like an actual fight? Like, I've done training for stuff like that, but have I ever been in a real fight? No, I have neither been in the ring nor in a street fight. I am generally a non-confrontational kind of guy. You find a lot of times that the type of people who get into fights a lot, they're also the type of people who sort of seek them out. I mean, like, not every time. Sometimes not. But the people who consistently get in fights most often, like I used to know guys who did this. they're the ones who are not shy about fighting. Like, they're willing to escalate to that point. So somebody goes, like, you want to fight? And then the other guy goes, yeah, I want to fight. And then you've got two parties that don't want to back off, and they fight. Normally, if one guy goes like, oh, you want to fight? And the other guy goes, no, man, no. Like, there's no fight unless the other guy is just, like, I don't know, out there. So no, I've never been in a fight. And probably for my benefit, whatever training I may have had, or even when I was in good shape, in good shape and actively training, I was still a little guy, and I still weighed like nothing, which, in a fist fight, like, being small and being short are two massive disadvantages. Like, if we lived in medieval times and I ever got drafted into the army, like, I better hope that they put me on archer detail, because I would not make it on the front lines. I would get smashed. So no, I've never been in a real fight or anything like that. Did you ever play Romance of the Three Kingdoms or Destiny of an Emperor on the NES? No, I never did. I've heard of those, but I have never played them. Dynasty Warriors was the first time I ever saw Romance of the Three Kingdoms in game form. Do you take a regular day off? And what do I do to unwind when I do take time off? And I don't have a regular day. No, I sort of... I never have a day when I do nothing, to be totally honest. The closest I ever get is, like, when Kenza comes out to visit, I often take, like, days off. And in that case, it sort of depends on what she wants to do and what the plans are and all that. Which could be, that's like not a regular sort of thing, so I don't know if I could say. But when I unwind, usually I just like to get some friends and, like, play an online game or something like that. And I find that fairly relaxing, I like competitive games. Competitive games are fun. So I'll play competitive games with people online. I'll call up the game group and be like, what do you guys want to do? And see if they will do it. So, yeah. So when I do recreation, that's what I do. Maybe I might also watch a show, but it depends. Depends on what I haven't seen yet, what I want to watch. From Griff Monquez, have you ever watched Thrilling Intent? No, I have not watched Thrilling Intent. I don't know what Thrilling Intent is. Chicken, how often do you jerk off? Just enough, chicken. Just enough. Artisan Bubblegum. When is the silliest, what is the silliest specialization a wizard could possibly have? And I think that the silliest specialization that a wizard could have probably would be something like really stupid, like that would just be a huge waste of magical potential. Like something like a history wizard. I've got this kind of theme going on in a D&D game right now. It's like, oh, my character is a wizard. Oh, what does your wizard specialize in? History. I study the history of magic. That sort of like silly thing. Or like the social sciences, I'm a wizard of sociology. And it's like, oh, so you cast charm spells. No. I magically, I use a light to stay up at night, and I study sociology. So something that squanders the magical potential, I don't really use a lot of magic. I'm actually less magical, less fantastical, more like a professor. Yes. So I think that would be a fun specialization for a wizard if you wanted to be silly. Also, did you know that there is a skeleton in your home? Yes, there's at least two. They're inside of us. Marcus Wyden. What is it like meeting fans, and how do you feel about meeting fans? For the most part, it's pretty cool. I do have one where I think that I met a fan when I was working at the pharmacy, and this is not good because then like the fan meets you and they weren't expecting to meet you. Like they come up and they're like, oh, I'm here for my antifungal cream. Oh, Greg from the Flimflam Philosophy channel. Wow, from DonSomewhere.com. Cool. Yeah, I'm picking up the fungal cream. How are you? And it's sort of awkward. Also, too, like they show up, they may not be shaved, they may not have combed their hair, they're not prepared. But I've also met fans at conventions. And for the most part, I think I disappoint people a little bit because they expect that I will be kind of the life of the party, that I'm like super active and super social, and that I'll walk up to people and be like, hey man, let me just tell you a mile a minute, a story, and let's go drinking and do all this other kind of stuff. But in person, I'm a little kind of a quiet guy, naturally. So like, for example, like I enjoy parties, like I like groups and I like people, and I like to meet fans. But sooner or later, though, if I'm in a crowd for too long, then I have to go out and just take a break for a little while and just kind of, calm down for a bit and then come back in. I used to do this when bar hopping all the time, Like, and it's a kind of a nice way to meet people sometimes. Like, you might go to some place to decompress, and there might be a lady standing outside, and you just talk to her for a little while. I mean, like, occasionally, like, I remember talking to a girl, and like, she was like young, you know, she was like in her 20s, and I was like, yeah, how's it going, and da-da-da-da-da. And then she's like, yeah, I've got a kid, and I'm like, I'm in between jobs right now, and I'm just like, oh man, that sucks, yeah. Good luck. I'm gonna go back and hang out with my friends again, see you around. But anyway, though, as for meeting fans, though, it's kind of fun. It's nice. It's kind of uplifting because they're big fans of your stuff, and they're like, "Oh man, I love what you do. Keep doing it." And they tell you that face to face, so it's a little nicer. Like, you get that in emails sometimes, and but it's always a little bit nicer. If somebody shakes your hand, and you can see them, and they say that to you, then makes you feel good about what you're doing. So I don't know. I mean, like, meeting fans, I'm cool with it. It's good. It's good times sometimes, and there goes that thing. So okay, Arthur O'Connor, Dresden Files, yay or nay? Unfortunately, nay, because I don't know what the Dresden Files are. I don't keep up with them. Unfortunately, like I say, I don't watch things. I don't keep up with things. I am sadly cut off from the world. Omega, could you show us how to fold a fitted sheet? And man, that implies that I have like folded a sheet anytime within the past decade. I do not fold sheets. I am a man. I am a grown man. I run my own household. I don't need to fold sheets because the only person who needs them to look nice is me, and I don't care. So, no. We're not gonna fold the sheet. Shy Cake, since you stopped Monday Music, will you still release music somewhere? And occasionally, yes. The music that I've been doing is less in the form of they're less like complete songs, and now I kind of do them more as background things, so they really won't play for very long, and they often don't make like very good complete tracks. However, once a month, I am releasing a song on Patreon, and it'll be based on something that I used as background track on a video for that month, and then I'll just kind of flesh it out into some sort of musical thing, and maybe depending on how it goes. If it's something that can be fleshed out into something long, then maybe it will be. If it feels better short, then maybe it'll be a little bit short. But once a month, though, I'll release something and just put that up, and then you guys can download it if you like. But otherwise, though, the music is more tailored for background music. It's going to be less like full pieces, full tracks. And finally, from Zeronis, what is my favorite Pokemon? And this is a good question because I mostly was just into Generation 1, and then like Generation 2 came around, and I sort of lost interest in Pokemon, because none of the new Pokemon were cool, in my opinion, except for Tyranitar. Tyranitar was alright. That was like the only Pokemon. Like, I caught a Larvitar, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, this is like the final area of the game, and they've got there's like this little, like, I don't know, I can't remember what he was, like a little level 6, like Larvitar, okay. And then I leveled him up, and he became a Pupite, and I was like, oh, a Pupite, like, oh, but okay, he's like a rock larva thing, okay. And then he evolved into a giant monster, and I thought that was pretty cool. Otherwise, I used to really like Articuno. Articuno was like my favorite Pokemon when I was a kid. It's an okay Pokemon. Like, Articuno is probably not the best Pokemon. I think Zapdos is considered better. I don't know. I don't really know the current meta very well. They added a bunch of stuff, a bunch of newfangled things. They fixed a bunch of things that, but honestly, they needed fixing. But they didn't need fixing because things were better when I was a kid. And you know. So, Generation 1 forever, regardless. I mean, like, Rhyhorn was, like, this close to being cool. Except he was always a little bit dopey looking. So, you know, Rhyhorn was almost cool. I like a lot of the Generation 1 Pokemon. I used to like Paris. Like, Paris was kind of an interesting, if not horrifying, Pokemon. Like, just a giant fungus that takes over a bug. You can't find the bug anywhere without the fungus. Poor Paris. Poor sad Pokemon. Poor dead Pokemon. The fungus is the actual Pokemon. The bug is just the host. Yeah. But anyway, looks like that's it. So, yes, so thanks for sending in your questions. We have actually got a lot of people on the list this time. So instead of doing the thing where I read everybody's name off of a note card, I'm actually just going to read it off on a screen, because otherwise I have to like seriously write out everybody's name by hand, and that added a stupid amount of time to doing these videos, and so I can't. I won't be able to keep doing that, especially if we're bringing new people. But anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and thanks for your support. here we go. And a huge thanks to all our patrons and everybody who opted in for a thanks. Connor Walsh, Erica Bradley, Kosho, Harvey94, Sean Mount, Limey Pony, Jack Smith, Augusto Nicholas Chicas, Austin Nugent, Matthew Grisham, Michael Efforts, Samuel Albert Mell, David Silver, Phantom360, Niles, Amanda, General Disorder, Matt, Crash Collision, James Liu, Greg Bishop, Zeno Ferrer, Specially Trained Derp, Christian Jewel Martinson, Justin Cox, Kazard, Pilla, Raven Von Nock, Prince Brushy, Nada Gem, Jesse Kent, Jeremy J, Blake D'Amico, Natron, Stainless Key, Cameron Kennedy, Waffles, Seraph27, Wadi Bringer of Silence, Tyler Warren, Alex D, Alex Teepee, James, Joseph Latondra, Napalm Drinker, Befo, Jonathan Villastrigo, Django37, Keith Rolston, Andrew McCulland, Michael Chiakwi, Vladimir Lestrade, Demon1, Fazdaf, Kayan Noble, Brian Dagami, Jacob LaFond, Queeg, Brett, Eduardo, Shaxpert, Isaac Hema, Michael Fialdo, Sweet Gale, Hacked, Justin, Woodruff, Master Stoner, Warp1092, Robert Haynes, Jack the Quiet, Nintendo Oblivion, The Wired, James Bauman, Lee Riley, Zachary Smith, KM Soul, A Box of Foxes, Christopher Damiano, Artisan Bubblegum, Severin Mahoney Marsh, Ryan Sconnard, Jordan, Ryan Green, Jeremy Butler, Tristan Morris, Chase Falcon, Blue Moon, Palpatinus, Shady Crafts, Wireball McCarter, Milford Collarbuncle, Benjamin Hadoqueen Gao, Muffins McGee, Adam, David Malinsky, David Lane, Corey Watson, Wayward Pony, Lorenzo Perez, Zoe, Sebastian Weinberg, Chad Harrelson, Martin, Alex Weems, Xcoda, Pontology, David M. Brubaker, Tomato Goatee, Tori Boshi, Jesper Cragg, Jason Staples, Andrew McDonald, Commissar Roach, TY4CE, Television, Suku Art, Andreas Lindhall, Stian Andresen, Jack the Butcher, Commissar Elusive, Samuel Van Can, David Churchill, and Shycake. And of course to everybody else who I may have missed because I dawdled for a while getting this video up, and for everybody who's just been supporting us and has got us along this far. Thanks guys, I hope you have a good day.